So there was a bodega robbery the other day. You know, New York City, Harlem. This probably happens a few hundred times a day, so it's not really worth reporting anymore. However, this particular robbery made the international news. It was front page on Daily Mail, and it had a 15-minute segment on Tucker last night. So I'm certainly not the first person to comment on this. However, I think they missed a few weird details, so let's dig a little deeper. So here's how it started. A woman tried to buy a bag of chips with her EBT card. It was declined due to insufficient funds. So let me get this straight. She was given free money that you and I had to pay for, and she just thought she deserved more free stuff. So when the store clerk refused to offer her a line of credit, and why would he? She doesn't have any money. Well, when no free chips were being offered, she called her boyfriend to help persuade the store clerk. Introducing Austin Simon, the boyfriend, freshly out of prison for violent crimes and still on parole, according to Fox News. He is also unemployed and offers no redeeming value to society. They only mentioned the wardrobe of one person in the story. Austin was wearing a $350 Amiri shirt. Wait, what? Who pays $350 for a t-shirt? But why did they mention this? I have some theories. One, he was just wealthy and was just a better class of person and should not be disrespected by this lowly clerk. Tough for a guy just out of prison, but that's my first theory. Second one, he obviously couldn't afford a shirt like that, so he probably stole it, therefore framing up a history of theft similar to the reasons he spent several years in prison. Or the third theory, the article mentioned the value of his shirt, and therefore implying that a life of crime pays well in New York City, and you have nothing to fear and only rewards for being a thug in New York City. So he jumps the counter and stands over the clerk, trying to either fight him or intimidate him into giving the free chips to his beloved sweetheart. The clerk stands up, and Austin knocks him right back down into a chair. So he gets up again, and they start tussling a little bit. The store clerk grabs a box cutter on the shelf. The chivalrous boyfriend then gets a knife to the throat and another knife to the chest for his troubles. So let's get some details about this store clerk here. Jose Alba, 61, 62 years old. We don't know. The article actually says both. He immigrated from the Dominican Republic decades ago and became a legal U.S. citizen 14 years ago. So let's just compare these two people we have so far in the story. One, a hardworking legal immigrant working long hours to earn his way for him and his family. Zero criminal history. Two, a deadbeat violent thug who just got out of prison, who's unemployed and feels entitled to steal from anyone who gets in his way. So now many people are saying that it is a tragedy when any life is taken. Nah. Sometimes it's okay to take out the trash. If this turned into a life or death attack, the right guy won. Oh, you can't say that. That's not right. Well, I'm sure everyone can agree that the world is a better place without a few people. Like some weird mustache guy from Germany who had a fondness for gathering a certain group of people and doing bad things to them. There was this guy in the Soviet Union who made a few million people freeze to death in work camps in Siberia. Or some guy in Minneapolis who was a frequent prison resident who kidnapped a pregnant woman and overdosed on fentanyl. I'm just saying, some people are not a net gain on society. So what happened next? Well, the innocent store clerk who was fighting for his life was arrested on second-degree murder. The district attorney, Alvin Bragg, who was funded by George Soros, reportedly, requested $500,000 in bail. $500,000. You guys remember just a few weeks ago when they tried to end cash bail? Because it was too hard for the criminals in New York. They let violent criminals go free almost immediately. All the BLM rioters set free. Charges dropped. But this guy? No. He's a hardworking immigrant who was defending his life. So they eventually reduced the bail to $250,000. Well, because he is very popular in his neighborhood, the locals started complaining. So they reduced it again to $50,000. So, hard-working immigrants who work for about minimum wage in a bodega in the overnight shift don't have an extra couple of grand laying around for bail. So, of course, they started a GoFundMe. Well, nope, not for this guy. They canceled that shit almost immediately. So now he can't go back to work because his boss is afraid that the friends of the deceased are going to come into the store for retribution. And he's probably right. So what's he do now? What's he going to do? The cops won't protect him. They can't. And they're the ones who actually arrested him in the first place for second-degree murder. So he won't find any justice in the courts. They won't drop the charges for him like the BLM rioters. He might eventually be found not guilty, but it'll cost him years of his life. He's already 62, and he'll never be able to work again. Even big tech is against him. It's not like he can make this plea on Facebook or anything. The big tech, they got it out for him. GoFundMe will not let him raise funds like the other people because they said, you can't raise funds for violent crimes. Well, that's a load of shit. GoFundMe raises money for violent crimes all the time. BLM got several mansions from GoFundMe money, and all they did was violent, destructive, and deadly riots for almost 2 years. So what happens next? I would guess this guy packs up his stuff and moves pretty quickly. New York City and all of the power that the local government holds is against this guy. Now, if he was a criminal and he started selling drugs out of the back of a van, he'd probably be okay. Just kidding. Sort of. At this point, New York City, let him have it. It's basically a lawless Wild West. Crime is just out of control, and the ones following the law are punished. What do you call that? So at some point, it might get too dangerous to go to New York City. I haven't been to New York in several years. We used to go all the time. But if it keeps heading in this direction, I think long-haul truckers are the next to refuse to drive to New York City. It's not safe for them, and they can't carry a gun with them like they can in every other part of the country. So it just won't be worth the trouble. At that point, let the starving games begin. So before the story gets too dark, let's end on a nice positive note. Look at this man. Look directly into his eyes. He is the kind of man that takes zero bullshit. He's 62 years old, and he just beat down a 35-year-old felon. This is what a real man used to look like. And we're going to need people like him, or maybe exactly him, if this country is going to get ourselves out of this hole we've got ourselves in. And just for one last little quip, I'm not sure he fits into that little store with his huevos as big as they are for telling people that knife is just a simple box cutter. Bravo, good sir. You're a good man.